Welcome to the show today. I'm Dick Miller, and Jeff Smith and I, as you all know probably, we get together once in a while, and we try to do it monthly. It doesn't always work out. This has been one of those months where we're kind of off kilter, but we're together again, and that's good.
Yeah.
Coming up from Blair today, I drive a van part of the time, and that wind was just a howling, wasn't
It really is. And hey, by the way, since you mentioned that, the Blair Taylor boys are really in
Yes.
their stride, aren't they?
Yes, they had a real good game last night,
Yeah.
and they had a good lead, and they lost a little bit of the lead, but they came out strong.
Yeah.
So one
Let's-
more game on Saturday,
Let's
and
hope they make it to state.
they may make the
By the
state.
time you see this, you'll know the answer. And
Yes, we will know that. Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm sure the town is always enthused when that happens. And I guess it's nice to have that occur in your locale because the whole
Yeah.
county supports them. When you have a team that
I
does
know,
does that
That's
well.
fun.
So anyway, we're going to move on from local sports then.
Yeah. And do you need the weather? Or no?
Yeah. Well, the weatherman is next door here. We'll have to call
well,
him in
it's
here.
windy.
It's windy. We'll get into talk about state issues, and first thing I want to mention is that in our Trempealeau County Times, they had an editorial regarding Senate Bill number 55, dealing with you know what I'm talking about.
I do.
And this bill deals with the subject of public
notices
notices regarding
Yeah.
meetings as well as proceedings, right?
Yeah.
And
It's
give us your
actually-
assessment.
Yeah,
will
and
you?
I think it's really more specific to minutes. But I'm not. Don't quote me on that. But we had a hearing. I'm actually on the committee that had the hearing on this, and I voted against that bill. It's directed at our newspapers, and local governments do have to pay local newspapers to put notices in, and we have mandated that they have to put notices in for every meeting, all their minutes, those sorts of things. And I understand there's, we're always trying to cut costs or whatever we can, but and there's also the belief that people have access to that other ways now. There's a different world, but not everybody. This is the way and we're going to, and at some point this half hour, we're going to talk about broadband, but not everybody has that access. And as long as we can't ensure that everyone has access through the internet, we cannot be cutting out our newsprint. And by the way, our newspapers are valuable to us, and they need that extra income that comes in. And also, we should know that there is a set cost. Newspapers cannot, bleed our local governments. There is a set cost at which they can charge for those notices. So it's not like they're, getting rich off of it. But there's no reason we should be taking more away from the newspapers when, in fact, I shouldn't say we all, but many of us still really like to hold a newspaper and read a newspaper, especially that's where we get our local news, as we were just talking about local stuff.
Yeah, in the editorial that was written by the staff, the newspaper indicated that, and I haven't researched this, so I'm assuming they have, that the county has only budgeted about $3,000 a year for
Right.
that to pay the bill for this sort of thing, and which when you look at the size of the county's budget, that's minuscule, of course, and I think even with the broadband, there is a significant number of people, maybe they're older, but maybe not, that don't utilize
Yeah.
some of the electronic medium that's out there today. And in time, that perhaps will change. And this is another subject I shouldn't even get into. It's like the idea of businesses not taking cash, and they only will take electronic or whatever. And some of us like cash in our pockets.
Yeah. Sure.
It's you have to work with the public.
But I think we have to be really careful about this. I mean, the news media is almost like a whole nother branch. We talk about the three branches of government that protects our democracy. I'll tell you, the news media is like the fourth.
Yeah.
That is where we're accountable. we don't want to start dissipating that. It is so important that that's out there. And by the way, I use all sorts of technology because of, especially this past year, we've learned Zoom and all those things to do virtual meetings. But I don't visit websites. I'm not one to go visit websites, but the newspaper, I read that thoroughly. And if it's right there in front of me, then I read the notices. But I'm not going to go looking for them because oftentimes you don't even think to look for notices. So there's all sorts of reasons why I think it's a bad idea.
And I think it ties into public hearings on the state level too. And that is that public hearings give a person a chance to learn what's going on and share their opinion about a particular piece of legislation, proposed legislation. And so there is I agree with you, there is real merit in having access to information. And obviously, we've got a problem if we don't have access.
Yeah.
Moving on, you're in the middle of the budget issues, and Governor Evers has proposed a budget, and you probably have started, if not completed, all your study of that package, right?
Well, started. Let's just stay with the start. And in fact, we're not even in the middle. We're really at the infancy of the budget process. The governor just at the time that we're speaking, the governor less than 10 days ago introduced his proposal of the budget. The Joint Finance Committee will be starting to take it up probably the 1st of May, end of April, 1st of May. So in between now and then, we're going to be talking about what the governor proposed, what could be kept in it, what could be thrown out, what could be adopted from the legislature. So it's a process. And by the way, the budget is about 1,800 pages if you were to read all of it. Fortunately, we have summaries that we stick to, and if you really want to get into detail, then you can research and get into the heart of it.
Well, you can always take it to bed with you. Put you to sleep, maybe, huh?
Yeah, exactly.
And even on the county level, the budgets, of course, they're small. You don't have nearly the minuteness in terms of where money is being directed, and yet it's not one of those subject matters that people want to deal with. It's a hard study.
It is, but that's why you elect people, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
that's why the big bucks, huh?
Yeah, that's right. Big bucks. Not quite. But there are parts of the budget I'd like to talk about.
I wish you would give us a...
Yeah, so for instance, we know farmers have suffered for the last couple of years, but particularly through this pandemic, and really thrilled. And I know that we've talked to Farm Bureau and Farmers Union, and they're really excited about this part of the budget as well for farmers. So $43 million is what the governor's proposing to invest in our agriculture industry, including additional support for mental health services specifically targeted to farmers.
For the farm families.
Who have really struggled with all sorts of changes in farming that has caused issues with them. And the investment would also create new and additional, I'm reading some of this, so as you can tell, to create grant funding to encourage innovation, market development, and job creation in the meat and dairy sectors. The actually meat processing, thanks to the pandemic, has really taken light has been shined on it, and how it's been consolidated down to, there's only 4 companies in the U.S. that now own all of our meat processing plants in this country, and of course they're large, and they're not like we used to be. Like you and I were kids, we had regional small meat processing plants that we could actually see and
you could market your products
to.
Yeah.
And so that's maybe going to change in the future. I've sat through some webinars just on that subject. It's really actually more interesting than you would think. So there's that, and I told you I was going to talk about broadband, and I always talk about broadband. Please don't get sick of hearing about broadband expansion until everybody has fiber into their house and their business. We're not done. The governor, I'm really excited. First of all, he named this the Year of Broadband, and I requested, you get chances to request things into the budget last fall. I requested actually 82 different areas, but This one I requested to a bunch of ideas that I've had and I've been promoting through bills in the previous session and not getting anywhere. But one I said, well, I want $100 million put in. The governor doubled down on that. You know, the pandemic, if nothing else, has illustrated the great need for access in a different way, which means virtually or through the internet. If you want to access your doctor, your school, your government, as we've talked about, I mean, this is the way of not only the way of the future, but now. It's happening now. So I'm really excited about that. And not only am I excited about that, but every organization I talk to and on every topic, that has risen to the top of their priorities. And so it's exciting. And also, I think this is the place where we can really come together on a bipartisan area. I am excited about that as much as anything. I think that this is what everyone's pleading for. Just come together, get something done that works for everybody, and forget about the politics. I'm hoping that this is the area that we can do that in.
Well, it's kind of a necessity is the mother of invention. Is that the term? Is that the phrase? It's kind of that's worked that way for electronic messaging and information. Yeah.
But it's the same with politics, right? Necessity is maybe going to pull us together whether we like it or not.
Oh no!
And let's get this done.
It can't happen.
This can happen. You know, of course, there's always all sorts of things in the budget related to bringing us back economically and bringing and boosting business, and that's something that's important. And of course, healthcare and expanding Badger Care is back in the budget, right? It's been an issue for 10 years. I think we're one of just a handful of states left that have refused the expansion of Medicaid, or which in our case is Badger Care, Medicaid, I should say. And it's important for access to health care for everybody. And it's money that we're pouring into it because that access is there in Wisconsin, but we're paying out of our state dollars and local dollars rather than taking the money that's sitting there in D.C. that we have already contributed that we need to get back here.
Well, I think Wisconsin was a real leader when Badger Care came into being.
Yeah.
But then there became monies available to help supplement that program.
Yeah, that's
right. And the governor chose, was it Governor Scott? Chose not to engage in that program?
Oh, Governor Walker?
Or Walker? Scott. Scott Walker. Yeah. Governor Scott.
Yeah. Governor Scott was in Florida.
Okay. Same party.
Yeah. You know, we could bring home, I'm just going to read this part because numbers, you want to get it right. We could save $630 million in state tax dollars and bring in $1.3 billion of our federal tax dollars into the state of Wisconsin if we were to just sign off and
so this other state money could be allocated for other important areas.
That's right, especially now when there's such a need such a need to boost things again.
Our infrastructure and a lot of places that money could be spent. And
right.
I know you, living in Eau Claire area, the local infrastructure is suffering all over the state.
It is all over the state. And, I just had a meeting with our DOT secretary designee, Craig Thompson, and he just nods his head when I say my district is rated as one of the worst worst areas for our roads. So, if you think you got bad roads, it's true. and the state of Wisconsin knows it. But we don't have we haven't had the funding, to fix those. K-12 education, we really trying to get back to the commitment of 2/3 funding for this at the state level. And fortunately, again, the governor is trying to boost sparsity aid, which is for rural districts like ours, like where we are. And it's crucial. If our small communities are going to survive, their school districts have to flourish. And then, of course, broadband. I always bring in broadband, but we need those things for our communities to be able to survive and for us to be able to continue to live the way the lifestyle we like in rural Wisconsin.
But tying into that, I don't know if you recall, maybe we visited about it years ago when TCC came into being. It was monies to tie together the schools so that they could share some resources. And our technology has grown so much that there's no reason we can't do more of that. If you have a specialty class, you could offer it to several schools. And with you were mentioning earlier your method of communication over Zoom, that would be perfect for a classroom situation.
And they are using that in many cases.
Yeah.
Now, and I'm glad you mentioned that, because I hear a lot of this talk from some, open up the schools. We'd all love to open up the schools the way they were before this pandemic.
Sure.
But the fact is, every school is open in one way or another. It may be a hybrid situation. They're open for 2 days and then close down, clean up. But they don't really close down, because the teachers are still teaching over on a third day over the internet, and the students are supposedly. But back to the lack of broadband, and so it's not fair for a lot of students and a lot of families who either can't get it because they're just in a bad location, or they can't afford it because it's too costly. We need to tackle those issues. But schools are doing amazing things. Teachers are working harder than ever. Expectations are greater than ever. And I know our administrators, I talk to them quite often, and they have been, they're going to get burned out, because they're working so hard at trying to adjust to this world that we're in right now. And yeah, it'll be great. Who knows if it'll be the next school year or halfway through the next school year, when it'll happen that we can finally say, hey, this thing is done. Let's get back to just everybody packed into a classroom together. And kids need it, and so do we.
Yeah, yeah.
So it'll happen, but I'm worried that there's this thinking that teachers and administration are keeping things closed for some reason, and they're not. They're not. They're trying to, in every way they can, to have in-person learning as much as they can.
And I can speak from experience. I have a daughter who's in the Madison area, and in her school, she's not only teaching in person, but she's also having to develop programming for the internet. The kids who are home.
I know. That's what I mean by they're working harder than ever.
And they're working, And I see this in Blair Taylor, and I'm sure we see it all through the county, that the people are doing double duty.
Yes.
And boy, I think we all need to thank these people for the great job they're doing.
Yeah. Because
this is way beyond the call of duty.
Yes, it's heroic. So I know some people are going to say, no, it truly is. They are doing double duty.
Yeah.
I know we want to talk about a lot of other things too today. So.
You have any other?
Well, we just introduced a bill this week we call Final Five voting, and many will zero in on one part of it that's ranked choice voting, and you may be a little bit familiar with that, Dick, or what that means. But but there is a bill out there that's just ranked choice voting. This is a little different, has a couple more, or at least one more step to it before we get to the ranked part. And more importantly, again, it's a bipartisan endeavor. I'm working with Senator Kuyenga, who's a Republican, and myself, a Democrat, and there's a Republican and Democrat on the Assembly end of things, and the four of us have brought this forward as a bipartisan effort to make a change in the way we elect our members of Congress. Now, many will say, well, why not all, because I get asked this question a lot this week then, why not all elections? Personally, I actually would love to see this happen at all levels, but we're going to start with this. This is something that we could agree on a bipartisan level, and introduce this together. that's how you get things done. That's how we can maybe
It's a
get
step
things
at a
done.
time,
A step
yeah.
at a time, but
Yeah.
we're working together. That part of it is so exciting to me. But how this works is we call it Final Five because at the beginning of the when you get to the primary, no matter how many candidates are on there, they aren't listed. It won't matter Democrat, Republican, Independent, whatever party they want to affiliate themselves with. They're on the ballot together. The top five, no matter what, advance to the general election. And that's why we call it the final five. So the final five get to the general election. Then, of course, you're going to be voting for that one final selection. But you rank them in order, if you wish. So you can take your top choice, then you rate your second choice, third choice, and so forth. You don't have to do all five. You don't even have to do more than one if you don't want to. But you want your voice heard. So you probably should. And I think it's something will take some getting used to. But how it happens then is for sure, absolutely, the winner has to have over 50% of the vote before we can declare a winner. So if you have a top choice who's only get 35%, and then the next one's at 25, and so on all the way down, then you eliminate the fifth one, and those voters' second choice moves up, or their vote goes up to their second choice.
Yeah, because they're still there. They're still in the
still
running.
on, right? So that happens over and over until we have one candidate who's over 50%. That's how ranked choice voting happens. But we call this top five because we start with you first. We get down to the top five candidates, and it's I want to talk about that first to try to explain it, but also it is exciting that we are doing something together on elections to introduce something that may catch on. I'm really excited about.
Well, we just finished a primary where there were 7 people running for the superintendent of schools, state superintendent. Now, in that case, that would have reduced them to 5. In theory.
Of course, those are nonpartisan
they were-
races. It's different.
Yeah, it could be different. Yeah.
Yeah. But again, I agree. Even at the local level, we could introduce. See, there you could just do pure ranked choice voting.
After
forget
the primary.
Just you wouldn't even have that.
You wouldn't even have that.
You would just have that one election and work people out.
So the bill that you are working on, you could have, for example, 3 Republicans and 3 Democrats all running.
Yeah.
Forget the primary.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. And it would be a primary just to get to the 5.
It would be the primary, but one person out of those 6 would be elected in one election.
Eventually. Yeah.
It'd be one election, basically.
Yeah, at some point.
Yeah. Are there any states utilizing this successfully?
There have been. There are, and I can't name exactly where it's working because there honestly, and I know the clerks who listen to this are going to go, "Oh my God, not again, not something else." That is going to be. It is going to be tricky, and training will be involved, but worse than that, in some cases, is going to be a cost. And I've been talking, and through all the interviews I've done the last couple of days on this, is we need to fund it. If we as a state are going to say this is the way we're going to run this election, we need to fund it. We can't leave it up to the county or any other municipality to have to buy new machines to figure out this formula of ranking these, figuring out these rankings.
But I would think that they can program that computer.
You would think. I would think so too.
I would think they could do that because
the reason I mention that though is that I know that, for instance, Minneapolis adopted this years ago. The legislature since then has repealed it because I think there was some difficulties with the programming, with the cost, and getting all of the polling places. It was.
But this has been a while ago.
This has been a while ago.
Yeah.
So hopefully things have gotten better.
Yeah, we know technology has advanced quite a bit. That's an interesting direction to go. That would yeah, that would be,
Yeah.
I don't know, that sounds like an interesting,
And I know we only
thing
have
to
a
tackle.
few more minutes, Dick, but I think we should mention to our audience
Mm-hmm.
that the testing, I mean, the vaccines have been going great. Wisconsin ranks high
Mm-hmm.
in administering vaccines at this point. And in fact, I know we're at 10% in different counties. I mean, we're higher than the national average of the number of people we have been vaccinating in Wisconsin. And we're moving in the right direction. And I want people to know, you and I were talking on our way in. Each of us have had our first shot. We are in the category, the age category. We're both anticipating our second shot in the future, in the near future. And I say that, and this is the first time I've said that publicly about getting my shot, but I want you to know you need to plan it, get that shot, and we're all going to be able to return to normal sooner. And that is why even the business community is coming around to realize if we're going to open up, if we're going to get back to normal, we have got to reach that point where we have herd immunity, as they call it, with the number of people in this country who are vaccinated. And we can travel again, and we can come shoulder to shoulder and elbow to elbow and hoist a beer or a wine or a coffee with each other, whatever it is. It'd be really nice to be able to do that.
well, I think a tie-in, just to put a plug in for Trempealeau County, the health department here is working with Moderna vaccine. They're getting that, and the hospital here is getting the Pfizer, and they don't always know how many they can handle in one each week, because depending on how much is coming into the state.
Yeah.
But the amount of vaccine is growing nationally.
Yeah.
Substantially in the last 30 days. It's grown quite
Yeah.
a bit. So everybody who is wanting a vaccination should get a hold of one of those agencies here in this county,
Yeah.
and they will help you and direct you.
Yeah.
I have one other topic. We're not going to hit it today. We're coming so close to the end, and we'll touch that next time.
Okay.
But we appreciate you listening in today, and thank you, Jeff, for coming down today. And it's been nice seeing you. It's been about a month and a half, so
Too long, Dick.
maybe we'll be able to get together at our regular
Yeah.
date.
A lot is starting to happen again, and we're back at work. Let's make it
That's
happen.
good. That's good.
All right.
Thank you all
Thank
for
you.
listening, and hopefully you'll hear from us here in the not too distant future. Thank you for tuning in.